Very good afternoon to all. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to our Tally CA Connect. Today's speaker is CA Monica Challani Ranka. She's a regular speaker here. I'm sure she needs no introduction. So just a brief note on her part. Monica ji has a vast experience in areas of company law, income tax act, indirect tax, auditing and assurance of corporates and non-corporates, including manufacturing concerns. She has also helped design books of accounts and business plan for various entities. She does regular training at various CA forums, and we are proud that she's a Tally evangelist. Today's topic of discussion is a very basic one and a most important one in today's business world. So over to you, Monica ji, we can begin. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Monica Challani, as Komalji has already mentioned. Today's topic is a very much, going on topic. It's been going on for years now, since 2017 until today, 22. We are still talking about GST accounting. The reason being that this particular if you just rectify this accounting perspective, your majority of your transactions of your business are already been taken care of. So now it's more prominent because the law is also shifting towards checking into your accounts and checking into your transactions, especially in case of input, wherein you're supposed to verify these transactions based on all the details captured in your books of accounts, and also verifying these captured transactions with your GSTR 2B. So if anything goes wrong, your entire process of verification and checking becomes a very difficult task. So the basic, so whenever we talk about accounting, it seems very boring, but if you ask me, accounting is very interesting, and if you do it right. So you need to see, if the base is set right, automatically all following procedures will automatically at least flow in the right direction, if not right themselves. So the base where we start, the accounting is literally the base. So, if the base itself is wrong, all your reports, all your reconciliations, all your verifications, and, every kind of reporting and analysis may go for a toss. So that's why the emphasis is on accounting. And Tally has been doing this, workshop on accounting, on auditing, and all of such things, which itself is a very good platform for learning. So having said that, I am not a teacher. We will learn together, and I am, open to all kinds of suggestions. So and correction. So having said that, let's just get started with the presentation. This is not I've not prepared a complete presentation as such. We'll directly get into Tally. But having said that, I just wanted to take a little bit of start with a quote. So again, this quote I have chosen because I'm sure people would have seen this quote earlier also. So the principal goal of education is to create people who are capable of doing new things, and not simply repeating what others have done. So when we are talking in any perspective, it's always it's not about doing new things. It may be doing the same things in a better way. So it's about all that. And right now we require people who are adaptive, who just can be very agile, and they are able to adapt to any kind of situation. This particular slide is this, especially I've kept it because a lot of us are working really hard, but are we working in the right direction? So working hard, I'm sure most of us can do or cannot do, I do not know. But if you're working in the wrong direction, whatever hard work you have done is utterly useless, So we need to work hard, but at the same time, you need to know where you need to work smart and where you need to work hard. So nowadays, majority of our work is smart work. We do not do the hard work per se. Hard work system takes care. So, the smart work, if it's smart enough, then you need not do the hard work. So this is just a beginner to, just warm up. So I will just get back to the real, this thing, the slide wherein I want to take. So this slide I always use in all of my PPTs, and it's like it's been there like a standard slide. So this particular slide, why this slide is important, especially in accounting, because accounting entries what we pass may become the input for a lot of other procedures. But for accounting, our input would be the accounting transactions, which are like the documents which are like, which may be invoices, which may be order slips and all of that. So that would be the the input. So I always ask this question to everyone: what would be the starting point? Anybody who has attended my session would definitely know, or anyone who would like to answer. I'd like some interaction in the chat box. What would be the starting part of any starting point of any activity? Can we have some responses in the chat box? Ma'am, are you able to see any responses in the chat box?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll wait another 1 minute, 30 seconds, not 1 minute. We'll wait another 30 seconds and just see.
To the audience, if you could write your brief introduction about yourself in the chat box. Okay.
Someone has raised hand. Can you reply in the chat box? Because right now.
Yeah. Ranjita Dineshi, if you could write in the chat box instead of raising hands, that would be helpful.
Chat is disabled, ma'am. That's what they're trying to say.
Oh, is it?
Yes, chat is disabled. So can you just
how come it's okay? Attendees can chat with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for people who have made us, who informed us.
Yes. Input documents. Okay.
Input documents. Okay, I received one answer. Can we receive some more? I'm not going to say whether it's right or wrong. I just want you to tell me what is right.
Starting point would be the invoice.
Okay.
Transaction entry by Mr. Anil Kumar.
Okay. I'll wait for another 10 seconds and then we will just get back to the real session where we are in.
One more person has mentioned creating masters in Tally could be the first point. Knowledge of what we have to do.
Okay. Okay, another 2 seconds. Anyone wants to answer? Okay, fine. I have received a lot of answers, but not the answer I was looking for. So let me just come right at it. According to me, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but according to me, and give it a thought. Okay. So I would say the output or the destination or the result is the starting point. You would ask me how and why. Don't look so puzzled. I'll bring back an old theory. Now, when you were in school, okay, when you were in school, how would you prepare for your exams? Would you start reading from the book, from the page, like, page number 1, point number 1 till last page, point number whatever? Would you read like that? Or you will see 1 mark question, how much? 10 mark question, how much? 5 mark question, how much? And accordingly prepare. How would we prepare? I am sure all of us would agree, we would always see the question paper pattern, and accordingly only prepare for exams based on marks. Yes. So what is marks? Isn't it the result? Isn't it the result? So, so according to me, output or destination is your starting point. If you want a particular entry to be correct, you need to know what and all you need to pass in that entry. If entry is your final output, okay? If passing the accounting entry is your final output, then you need to know what are the components you need to fill for the entry to be complete. Similarly, if reporting is your final output, then you need to know the contents of the report, what and all you need to, to prepare this particular report. So if you do not know where you want to head, then how are you going to prepare a path? Okay, so according to me, output is the starting point of any activity. Based on the output required, you will source your inputs. You will devise a path. You will formulate a procedure. And then you will also store documents, thinking, okay, these might be relevant to me. You're going to store details. If you do not know, relevance is a relative term. So if you do not know relevance to what, then you will not, all your procedures and your input, everything may not be right. So I think the output is the starting point. So you may disagree with me, but if you just see on a generalized basis, output is generally where you would start. You will start your thought process. So having said that, let's just get right into GST, the topic of the day. I will stop my PPT. We'll go directly into Tally right now. I'm sure all of us know how to use TallyPrime. Having said that, if you do not know, it is all right, because the procedures the processes are almost the same, but it is advisable in case of GST especially that you use the latest Tally version. If you want all the the workings to happen correctly, it is advisable that you use the latest Tally version. Having said that, all these entries can be done in the earlier Tally as well. Now, what are we going to focus on in our presentation today? I would like to jot down a certain pointers what we are going to focus on. Today's topic is on accounting and verification only. So we are only going to see accounting perspective and how to verify those transactions. We are not getting deep into any kind of audit or reports. And I'm sure last session we had on on returns. So I will just touch upon returns, but we may not have the time to get deeper into it. But if you have any questions, I'm always ready to answer. So we will start. The first place where you make the first place where you actually put your details right is here in your main data, company creation screen. You need to put all your state information, your country symbol, INR, the currency and the financial year, all of that. If it's right here, majority places it will set right by its own. So always have if you know, do you know the difference why you have two places where you put your company's name? This is just an out of context question, but I'm very curious to know what you think of it. Why 2 times Tally is asking you for the name of the company or your business entity? Is it because Tally does not remember? Can we have answers quickly, please? We'll give another 5 seconds to it.
I think, ma'am, if you could repeat the question again.
Why is there the company name? Why is it asked twice in the company creation screen? When the screen we are in right now, why is the company name asked twice? Is there any relevance or it's just like that? Sorry, ma'am.
No, just ask to the audience. Any guesses from the audience?
Yeah, we'll give another 2 to 3 seconds. Mailing name is used for mailing directly from Tally. Okay. Because mailing name can be different. Okay, so which name can be more different? Which name can be different? Can you keep the mailing name as any other name? Printing and display. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll not waste much time on this. So the company name and the mailing name. The difference is, as someone had mentioned, one second, appears on the invoices and other documents. Yes, correct. So mailing name is your formal name. Okay. So the mailing name is the name which will appear on, if you print books, it will appear on the books, the printed books. If you print any kind of invoices, advices, the mailing name is what will reflect. So company name, what can you do to it? So company name, I can also keep it as, I just want to say company A. Okay. I can name it anything, but this name, this mailing name, smart tax or whatever. So, this mailing name has to be your formal legal name. Okay. Because this will go on all your documents. So this name can be anything. You can, name it anything on earth. So, this name is just for your reference. But this mailing name is for all your documents and all your official notings. So this name, no matter what you name here, make sure the mailing name is correct. Okay. So having said that, I'm not filling the other details. The first part is over. Now we will get into the second place where we do these, do these corrections. Sorry, you enable the GST details. I'm sure all of us know. We'll quickly just get into it. So we get into F11 company features, and then we get into GST enable goods or service, goods and service tax, and we just enable it as yes. And then the first place where the first pointer is the state. If you've chosen at your company level, it will automatically reflect here. And you have to choose whether it's regular. If you're an assessee of another territory, for example, for an SEZ territory or, outside of an economic unit and whatever, there are a lot of deemed exports scenarios. If that kind of territory you belong to, then you have to choose this as yes. Generally, it's no. When is GST applicable from? This will be your registration date, generally, or just a few days before, but generally it is GST is applicable from your registration date only. Okay, so that is the date GST is applicable from. If it's a part of the year, I mean, if you've created, if you split your company and brought it to the next year, I would still suggest you put your GST applicable date from your registration date. Then you enter your GSTN number. Now this periodicity of GSTR1, this is come in recently only. So if you select it right here, your returns, when you are about to file your GSTR1 return, when you go to GSTR1, automatically it will show quarterly selection only. So if you choose it right here, it will show you correctly in the return places. Now set alter GST rate details. If you have a single rate system, you might do it here, but I would suggest do not do it here. Okay. Enable tax liability on reverse charge. This is for unregistered dealer purchases. Right now it is kept in abeyance, so we will also not do it. Enable GST classification. If you have multiple rate systems or within the same rate you have multiple types of products, I would suggest you keep it as yes. Okay, I'll keep it as yes as of now. And the e-way bill, whether it's applicable. Okay, from when is e-way bill applicable? And the threshold limit includes invoice value. That's the general rule. So what is the threshold limit? You can put that applicable for intrastate, and accordingly you can put the threshold limit. We are not getting into the rates because we are more concentrated on accounting. Having said that, we are done with step 2. Now is where our actual entries and actual accounting starts. So once we do the company level, it's just a one-time activity, and once you've done that, it's done. Even if you split the company, all these settings will go to the split up company as well. So having said that, now just because we have done it in F11 features, doesn't mean that you don't have to put the settings in other places. You will have to put all your settings in all places wherever required. Only then the GST module will work properly. So now we will get into some ledgers. Okay, I have created some ledgers. We will create some more. So first we will just go see our ledgers which have already been created. Okay, so I have created a sales ledger. Okay, I have created a sales ledger, and you have to choose it under, it is, I have renamed my list as per the requirement of the, act. Certain things I have renamed. So revenue is what is the terminology we use. We do not use sales. So I've just renamed it, but it's essentially a sales account only. So now, this classification is coming because we have enabled classification at F11 company features. If you have not enabled, you will not receive this classification screen. You can create your own classification. Like, for example, this is like, item A. So you can just create item 1 or whatever, and you can give your description, give the HSN code. If at all you want to set it to, local or interstate or particular type, you select here. Otherwise, leave it as not applicable. You can use it in multiple, you can use it for both intrastate and interstate. But if you want to define it to just local, then you please select it as local. Okay, you will select it as, sales taxable. So then you cannot pass an interstate sale entry using this particular ledger. So be very careful while choosing this particular nature of transaction. If you are if you want it to be an open-ended, a ledger, then you do not select anything here. But if you want to freeze it as a local, I want to use it only for my local sales, and I want another ledger for my interstate sales, yes, then you select it as sales taxable. Do not leave it blank. Okay, I will leave it. Okay, we'll do a thing. I will select it as sales taxable only. Whether reverse charge is applicable, in cases where it's applicable, we look into it. Right now, we don't need it. And I will select the rate. The reason why I have not selected rate here, I will let you know, but you can select your rates here. Okay. Since this is classification, you will have to select your rates here. I will just select it here and I will. Okay, but having said that, I'm not going to select any classification here. Okay, and I'm going to just accept. Okay, so now this is the ledger which we have created. Now I will just create one stock item. The reason why I have not selected any rate bifurcation in the ledger level is because I am going to do it at the stock item level. But in case you do not have stock item, then what are you going to do? So you are going to do it right there. I will just create one ledger called, labor charges. Or you can just create any ledger which is under revenue. Okay. So now I'm saying it's applicable. Classification I'm ignoring. I just made you understand the classification. You can choose something like this also. The moment you choose, you need not do anything else because you've already chose the classification. If you just come here, if you just get inside the classification, you'll be able to see all the details. Okay. If not, you just will make it undefined and you can put your own HSN code and all of that. So you have two ways to do it. Either you create a classification and keep using that classification for all related ledgers and stock items, or you create at each go. So if you have related items, you might have different varieties of a similar item. For that, I would suggest you have a classification and you can use the same classification for all of those items or ledgers. If you have different items, I would suggest, you can either create classifications or you can directly start typing the HSN code here. Having said that, both will serve the same purpose. The only advantage of having a classification is you will have minimal errors between the HSN description and the codes. So if you have a classification, it's single classification, and you have utilized that classification detail, GST rate details in all of your ledgers and stock items. So okay, it's a 6-digit code. Any service code is a 6-digit code. So I do not want to select whether it is taxable, whether it is local or interstate, and I'm going to give a rate, and it is service, and we will just accept it. TCS and TDS, all of that we are not concentrating on. I will just get back into that ledger what we just created. Okay, this is the ledger we just created. So I will get back into this. Now, if I make any changes here, Tally will save it as a different entry. Let me just show you. So now when I just save it, I will get back to here. Over here, all W details. If you just see, Tally has saved this entry as a different dated entry. The reason being, it will just take the date of your last transaction which has happened, and it will create another line item. If you want it to happen like this, well and good. If you want the change to happen from day one, then you will have to edit this particular transaction detail. How will you edit it? Set alter details. You just say yes. I'm sorry. You will make all changes here, and for the rate, you will say set alter details yes, and you can make your changes here. Okay. And if something like this happens, simply just delete the date and the entry is deleted. Okay. So in case you please do check if you have made changes in your entries in your tax details. Please do come and check into these details whether it has updated or whether it has just added as a separate line item. If you ask me, it is always going to be a separate line item. So it's better you make that change in the details if you want to do it from day one. Okay. So now I have already created other ledgers. Let me just go into stock item, because just to save time, and I'm sure all of us are aware how to this. Yeah. So the stock item is shoe. So I've already created it. I'll just edit it, and I'll just show you again. Now for example, this company is a footwear company. So you might have shoes, you might have Crocs, you might have flip flops, and lot of categories. Now if you see, majority of these categories fall under the same GST classification, but they are different assets, and we need to keep them differently for our reference. So in those cases, what we can do, we can create one classification for one GSTN number, and what all items which are fitting into that classification, we can just create one particular classification and keep choosing that classification again and again. Okay, so something like this we can just create. We can say shoes HSN code. I will just for the time being, I'll just select it as 6. Okay, so 8 zeros, and I don't want to select this, and I will say probably 5%. Okay, when is it applicable from? 1/4/21. Goods. Okay, this is what it is, classification I have chosen, and that's my job. So next time I'm going to create, now I created shoe. So I'll probably I want to create another stock item, sneakers. Okay. Here I will simply select this shoes, and I'm done. So this is how you can save time by creating one classification and utilize that classification for all related hedges and codes, okay, and rate items. So I would strongly suggest that you use GST classification. And if at all you made an error, you just come to alter master, okay. You go get into alter master and you can see the GST classification which you have just created, and you can modify them anytime. You want to delete them, you can delete them. The condition being you should not have used this classification anywhere else. Okay, so I have so far just shown you how we create ledger, which is very common. Only thing which I wanted to emphasize on was the GST classifications, which we barely use, and it's extremely useful because these classifications ease your work to a great extent. You need not remember the rates. You need not go and verify your hedges and codes and all of that. Once you have created a classification with that hedges and code and that detail, you save a lot of time in rechecking at a later date. Okay, so now ledgers and item, make sure if you are able to, if you have stock items in the ledger, so you make sure you do it at the stock item level. Now you can also do at the stock group level. Okay, so I will create a okay. I can also do this particular GST classification and all the rate details at the group level as well. So if you are doing at the group level, then make sure if you're doing at stock item level, it should be same, or do not do at the stock item level. Try to keep all your these GST rate settings and the classification settings. Try to keep it at one level. Either you keep it at the base most level, which is stock item, or you keep it at ledger level, or you keep it at group level. And if you're keeping at multiple levels, make sure that the rates and all the details do not clash. If they clash, then Tally will not understand. In fact, no software can understand such clashes, and it will give you an error report, and you will not get a correct detail. So either you do it at group level, okay, you can group all your items and do it at group level, or you do it at item level, or you do it at ledger level. You do not do it at multiple levels. If you do it at multiple levels, make sure it's exactly the same. The setting should be exactly the same. But it is advisable you do it at only one level, either at the item level or at the group level. So we'll get into an entry. So I will pass a purchase entry first. So all of us, I'm sure we are aware how we pass entries. So now at the first place where you might go wrong is on the supplier invoice number and date. So now what is the difference between the entry date? Now, for example, you have received an invoice dated, today is 20th July. So you received an invoice dated 10th July on today. So how are you going to account it? So you cannot go and backdate the accounting. That's a different ball game about backdating and all of that. But let's talk in a professional sense. And we do not, we would not like to backdate the entry. There are a lot of risks in doing that. So if you're in that page, so what will you do? You will pass the entry on 20th July. Okay, but so you'll pass the entry on 20th July. Here, the supplier invoice number you have to write as per the bill number. So 124/2223 probably. So now automatically, just because you have chosen 20th July, the date automatically comes to 20th July. But you have to make sure that you enter the invoice date and not the date of your entry. You have to see the bill, the purchase bill, and whatever date is there, that is the date you have to mention here. A lot of reconciliations go wrong because this date and this invoice number has not been entered correctly. So, make sure that you are actually doing, entering the supplier invoice details correctly. this date of your entry date is not relevant at all, other than just counting into your accounting year. It may fall on or off your accounting year. Otherwise, this date is not relevant for GST purpose. The only date that is relevant is the supplier invoice date and supplier invoice number. So I have already created a creditor ledger, and I already also have an outstation creditor. So I'll just quickly just show you the creditor. It's pretty simple how we generally create the ledger. Only additional change which I would emphasize is the state. Even if you do not have the address, it's always advisable, please note the address of the creditor or debtor. If you do not have the address, please at least select the state correctly. Okay. And next is your GST number and the registration type. If it's a consumer, please select so. If it's a business party and not registered, please select so. It'll help you in segregating your transactions correctly, whether it's end consumer. This is for your sales, and your unregistered would help you in creditor, whether it is registered or unregistered. Select these categories correctly. Every category is there for a purpose. Consumer is the end consumer. Okay, if you're selling to another business entity which may not be registered, for that category you please select unregistered. If you see general sense, there is no such difference between the two, but when you go and check the customer the party status, you will easily be able to differentiate between consumer and unregistered, and that will help you to know how much is your business purchase, and your registered purchase and your unregistered in case of purchases, and how much you have sold to business units, how much you have sold to registered business units, and how much you've sold to consumers. So that could be one reason. And second reason is for even for your GST purpose, the classification, I mean the category, if you choose it right, it'll go fall in that proper categories. So this again, the mailing name, same thing goes here also. I'm sorry, I missed that out. Same thing here also. This is the name for your reference. The mailing name is the actual official name. So if you do that, your bill will show the mailing name only, not the name that you have noted in your ledger name. So, so now this screen is simply a replica of the screen what is going to be shown into your invoice. Please mention the address because it's a necessity. At least for sales, you have to have the address, and the GST number shows in. If the GST number does not show here, it will not be captured and it will not go in your return. Please keep that in mind. No matter even if your ledger has the GST number. If the GST number is not shown in the invoice, it will not get captured in the return. So purchase. This particular screen, you may not get it, but that is not a very much required screen. So I will just skip it. So shoe, I am gonna buy shoes around 50 pairs and 1,000 rupees per pair and 50,000. Okay. Yeah. So now this item is up to the stock level. Now the rate we chose was 5%. You can either create rate-wise GST ledgers or you create single ledger, and you can just I'll just quickly go through this one also. Again, you just get into, you have to save all your GST ledgers, all your statutory ledgers under duties and taxes. That's a given fact. And after that, you have to choose the right type of duty. In this case, it's GST. And again, you'll have to choose whether it's central or state or integrated or cess. And if at all you're creating rate-wise ledger, you will mention the percentage, which is in case of CGST, SGST, you will have to divide by 2. So if it's 5%, you will mention it as 2.5%. And if you do not mention, because since we've already mentioned at the item level, I will keep it blank. And automatically, the rate has been calculated, 50,000 into 0.025. Okay, this one I had created at this is what I mentioned. If you have multiple rates in multiple ledgers, you will be always having this issue of, you will always face this issue of, rate clashes. So if you find that your calculation is wrong, that means at some level, either at the creditor level or at the purchase ledger level or at the item level, some level there is some sort of a clash. That's the reason you're not getting the perfect rate. The moment I rectified that error, you can see that the rate automatically has been reflected here. Now, how can you make this better? I'm sure all of us know how to pass this entry. So I literally did one recap of whatever we have been doing for the past 3 years or 4 years. Now, I would say, how would you add value to what you're doing? So what you can ideally do is you can create these voucher classes and keep it. So for example, any item invoice, we are aware that a purchase ledger will be selected and no sales ledger should be selected. So you can debar all sales ledgers. Similarly, you will select only creditors in your purchases. Generally, you do not select debtors, or you do not select bank, or you do not select such categories in your purchase voucher type. So you can debar. Where do you do that? I will just quickly show where you can do that. If time permits, we'll get into it. But I am just, just increasing curiosity, and not, we do not have the resource of time to get deep into it. So this is where you do it at the voucher type level. Here, if you just see on the last corner, class. So here you can do the voucher class maintenance, wherein you can define what ledgers can go into your purchase voucher type and what ledgers cannot go into it. So that is where you do it. You can also mention what and all you want to see in your invoice. If you want labor charges to show, it will show labor charges. Now I'm just adding labor charges to this, or we can just mention it as delivery charges. Okay, so let me just okay, if you want to maintain bill by bill, you can say so, otherwise you can just ignore. Now again, this thing, I am just skipping all these details because okay. Now, there are two kinds of expense creation that can happen. Either you say that it's not applicable and you say that accessible value calculation, I just want to add for, for these and do it. So I can say another 10,000 rupees and then I say input tax. I'll show you the detail what would be the change. Now, if you do like this, no matter what expense you choose, accordingly the rate will be calculated. You need not mention the rate here. So automatically it will go under the accessible value calculation. It will choose the base rate. This is the concept of composite and these separate bills. So if you have a composite supply, then you normally would select this only. You need not specify the rate here. Okay. But if no, they have chosen it to be 18%, then you will not do this. You will say applicable and you will specify the rate specifically. If you do so, automatically all the calculations will happen. This thing, you just click on Alt A and you'll be able to see that, at delivery charges, it has done at 18%, and at, the item level it has done at 5%. So both ways are possible depending on the transaction you're dealing with. So in case you have a composite supplies wherein the rate is derived from the main activity, then you choose this particular detail. You say not applicable here and you choose accessible value calculation, you use GST. You choose this particular item here. Then it is, you will have to also say whether you want to do it for goods or goods and services both. If you just have goods, you can just have that based on quantity or based on value. Generally, it's based on value. So if you choose this correctly, automatically all your the calculation happens accordingly. Now, if you just say Alt A and check it, this was the delivery expense because it's now we have instructed Tally to take it as part of this supply. Okay, so it has taken as part of this supply and accordingly charged the GST. So depending on how your transaction is framed, you will have to select your options accordingly. Right now, I'll just keep it to this. I'll just quickly close the entry. Okay. Now, this part will be only applicable in case of e-way bill being applicable. So you will have to fill in all these details. If you have a consignor, please fill the details. I'm sorry, e-way bill comes only if you have consignor. So yeah, so you will have to mention e-way bill number will be generated later. But you'll have to mention all of these these details of consignor and consignee, and the distance and the transporter name. If you have the ID already available, then the transporter ID and the mode. Now, what happens generally is you can fill up to this. These details may not be available with you. So part B details can be filled later on also. But if you have the details available, please fill it while you're doing the entry itself. Now, this e-way bill history, if you have made any changes to these transaction, you can come and check here, e-way bill number. So if any cancellation or anything has happened, you can do so. And once you go ahead and accept it, there are two ways wherein you can do. You can generate e-way bill once you have passed, or you can go to exchange here, and then you can come save the invoice and just send it for e-way bill generation. That also is possible, or you can do it while you pass the entry itself. That is up to you how you have customized your settings. But generally, if you have an active internet connection, you can very well do the e-way bill while after passing the entry then and there, or you just come here and send for e-way bill. Okay, this was a purchase e-way bill, that's why it's not showing. Now let's pass a sales entry against that purchase we passed. So I am gonna make an interstate sale. Okay, so this party is from Mizoram. So we will sell around 10 shoes. So I'm gonna select. Okay, so 10 at roughly 1,500 per shoe. Okay. Now all of these details, why it's coming to you, it's because 1 second. Probably labor charges. I'm gonna charge another 5,000. Okay, so now I will just say output CGST. You can have rate wise. Let us do rate wise in this case. So I'll say output IGST 18%. I'm going to create another GST. in this case, I'm doing rate wise. So let us just create rate wise GST ledger, integrated tax, and I will select 5% here. Even if you don't do so, it will. Not selected anything. Okay, if you just notice again, this was having a rate already. So that's why, we were not able to get the rate correctly. So I am again choosing the same items and 5% you choose first. And then I'm going to choose IGST 18%. However you choose it, if you just see on 15,000, so we have done this entry also. So now I was able to get a lot of details which it was asking me in between. That is because I have set this to be yes, modified tax rate details of GST. I have, enabled it. Second thing what I have enabled is send e-way bill details after saving voucher. If you say this as yes, immediately as soon as you save the voucher, the e-way bill details, if provided your internet connection is on, automatically will go to the website and e-way bill will be generated on real-time basis. If you say this to be no, it will come and fall under that exchange, send e-way bill category. And from there, you are supposed to send the e-way bill. So that is it about the accounting perspective. Now, why have we taken so much time in accounting in each of the intricacies? The reason being there are certain places where most errors happen. So in this case, if you see, you just witnessed that there were multiple rates given for the same transaction. Over here, now there is no such rate. But when we saw it earlier, here there was a rate of 18% kept. So you should generally keep it as unknown if you have multiple rate scenarios and you want to use the same ledger for various rates. Also in case where you have stock items. So I strongly suggest you keep your rate settings at one place. Do not do it at multiple places. Because once you do it at multiple places, you will be confused as to what is the rate settings and you will always have to visit the ledger again. You will have to visit again and again to just check what is your rate setting. Okay, so you keep it as a policy that you keep your rate settings at one place. If you have items, I would suggest you do it at item level or at the group level. You can group all related items into a single group, and you can give the group a rate, setting, the GST setting. So that is one issue. Second issue is in case of delivery expenses, I'll do it for labor charges also. I'll say it's not applicable. And accessible value. Instead of giving a derivative entry or specific rate, you can just give it you can just ask it to adapt the rate of its main entry. So, if this is just a delivery entry for, in this case, it's labor charges. But however, if you have something called delivery or you have additional making charges, generally it picks up the rate of its original entry. So in those cases, you just say not applicable here and choose it as accessible value in case whether you want goods or service or both according to your requirement of the transaction, you will have to choose this. Once you do so, if you just see, so it's automatically generated like this. So, you have to make sure that you choose your settings wisely, because this is where the error generally happens. So with this, we are moving to our second part of the segment, which is error checking and verification. So there are multiple places where you can, check your errors and verify them. The first place is right at your transaction level, where I showed you the places where you will make errors, and you can, if something goes wrong, these are the places you're supposed to check, where if you have, made any error in while recording those transactions. So these are the places. And if you have multiple, if you're using the same ledger for multiple rates or for interstate and local, I suggest you keep this setting open. This particular setting of modify rate details of GST, you please keep this as yes, so that you can select. In case Tally does not select right, at least you can select it to be interstate sales taxable. Generally, it will select right, but at least you can select it if not done by Tally. So this is one thing, and second one is on this tax analysis. If you have any query, the entire way of the method of accounting and the method of calculation of the tax will automatically come. Will automatically be reflected here. So if that is the case, then you would check the calculation. Now, if you just see, the rate is actually, I'm just going back to the transaction. If you see the tax analysis, the calculation says only 750 rupees, but as per transaction is 1650. This is a clear mismatch. So, you either correct the entry, or you redo the entry. So otherwise, when you go to GST ledgers, I will just go to the GST return, and we'll see what kind of error it throws. So it says mismatch due to tax amount modified in voucher. We'll just get into it, and if you just see, as per calculation, this was the tax amount and this is the transaction. So what you can do, either you resolve it here or you accept it as it is, which I would not suggest. Both of these options I would not suggest. I would suggest in such errors, you go to the root cause of this issue and sort it out at the root cause level. So you go to the root cause of this entry, why this ledger has been selected and what has happened. So the reason why this has happened is because earlier it was 18%. So you redo the you just remove this transaction, and if you just redo it, automatically the correct rate will come and fall. So, all you need to do is delete the value, and if you press enter, automatically the correct rate will come and fall, and you can accept the transaction. This is one solution. If this does not work, Okay, if you just delete and it does not work, that means there is some other error still persisting. And generally, when you have multiple transactions, what happens is Tally stores the information and keeps it. No matter how many changes you do, it still stores the information and keeps the older information. In that scenario, what do you do? Okay, I'm telling you another scenario wherein the first scenario I told was where you can make the corrections and Tally accepts it and you can just go around. You can just go ahead. But in certain cases, what happens is the information is stored somewhere in the software and you are not able to get hold of it. In those cases, how do you go about it? Any solution if you can think of in those cases wherein you're trying so hard to make the correction but it's still not happening? Okay, now something like this. Okay, it's still not happening. You've already done it, but still Tally is still storing the old transaction details. Okay, let's see all day. Here everything has been corrected, but still, if you see that the transaction is still not getting through, still you're getting some error, some sort of an error. This is all right. This is also right. It's right here. Now, if you just see, now I have made as many changes as I could do, and still I'm not able to, rectify this error. Now, what can you possibly do in such scenario? I would like some response to this particular issue. There, uh, can we have something from the chat box? Delete and make a fresh entry. I'm afraid this solution may or may not work. The reason being, once you delete an entry, what happens is in case of sales, especially purchase, okay, to an extent I would agree to that. And giving the power to your accountants to delete entries is highly dangerous. You cannot give them that power to delete entries. You would not come to know how many entries they've deleted and what has happened to those entries. So I would not suggest that. But if you're the only one doing and if you're able to easily check it, deletion is good. But in case of purchases, I would suggest. But sales, what happens if you have multiple entries on the single day? All the sales numbers will go and fall. It will retake the numbers. If you delete entry number 2, 3 will become 2, 4 will become 3, and all the sales voucher numbers will change. And if you are passing the entry also on the same day, still the the sales voucher number may not come as voucher number 2. It may come as 4, 5, depending on the day's transaction. So that is not an advisable, suggestion. But yes, in a small scenario, yes, it can be done. Deletion and passing the re-entry. But when you don't have that solution, how are you going to do it? Then deletion is not an option. How will you do it? And generally, deletion is not an option. Okay. In case you are, stuck with this kind of an entry, you can come here and very well, make the correction. Okay. You can just select the rate and 2.5%, 2.5% based on value. Okay, and you just accept it here. This is a dummy GST number. It will keep throwing this error. So I'm just accepting this here. Okay, now there is no such error. So now this is perfectly coming and fitting in. So the second place, okay, this is one solution, but if you have multiple such errors, this solution also may not work. What is the solution is you cancel the entry. You do not delete the entry, you cancel the entry, okay, and you pass a fresh one. Now, what is the change between a deleted entry and a cancelled entry? I will show you the difference between the two right now. Yeah. So when you are cancelling this entry will show as cancelled, and you can again pass a fresh entry on over this entry itself. So your invoice number remains intact. Okay. No other invoice will take the color of this invoice, and this again you just have to just pass this 10 items. Yeah. So you will just pass, and you will receive the right entry. That's about it. If at all you have any such scenario wherein you are stuck with some entry and it's not getting sorted at any way, all you can do is just cancel the entry and you can pass a fresh entry in its place. Canceling the entry is better than deleting the entry. Make sure you have a copy of the entry before you cancel it, because everything will get wiped off and you'll just get one cancelled message. You get nothing about the entry at all. Okay, so this is about checking of errors in these places. So if you have such uncertain transactions, please do check all these errors. Now this is because of the GST number. Since it's a dummy GST number, it will keep throwing this particular error. So I'm going to just, we'll ignore this error for the time being. Okay, I'll just change it to some. Probably. Shorty is the registration code for. Just go on. Okay. Now we have chosen sales taxable. That's the reason. Let me just go to this entry. Okay. So these are generally the errors which we make. That is the reason we were not getting IGST that time, which I misunderstood it. Okay. So I will just quickly make it a local data. Okay. Okay. So once we make, you make these corrections, these are the two places which you will have to see, which you generally know. Now I'm going to show you what you do not know, where you do not see at all. So this is the place, this particular place, not relevant in this return. This is where you generally do not touch upon. So what happens is, for example, if this was under some error, so let me just make some sort of an error here. Okay, so I'll make it 551 rupees and I will just accept it. Okay, so now it comes and falls under my error category, uncertain transaction, modification needed. Now, can you see this exclude voucher? The accountant tried so many times, did not understand, excluded this voucher. Now error sorted and it will come and fall under not relevant for this, return. If you just go there, user excluded transaction, this is a valid GST transaction, but either by mistake or genuinely that your accountant or someone has just excluded this transaction. So these transactions will be left out of your entry, like till you actually find out that this entry has been left out. So this is one place where you need to see. So you will have to come here and also again include this transaction. This is where we generally miss out. Then also you have other GST returns, and you will say non-GST also, since you do not have any other transaction. In that also you're supposed to check if there is any GST transaction which is still lying here as a non-GST transaction. Okay, so this is the second place where you do the error correction, which is over here, not relevant for this return. Right now, we do not have other kinds of transactions. Otherwise, you will have even non-GST related transactions. Those transactions, at least other GST returns, these are input related transactions. But in case of non-GST transactions, all your payments, all your receipts, journals, all those entries will come and fall there. Now you can use filter option here. So you can, you are using output input ledgers. So you can use ledger name containing probably output, okay, or input. So okay, there is nothing such. But if you are doubtful, so you can say voucher type containing sales. So there's nothing. So you can use your filter option. The shortcut for filter is Alt F12. Okay, you can use this filter option and you can search for any such transaction which you might feel might have been missed out. Now, how can you be absolutely sure that whatever transaction you have entered is reflecting here? The best way is map it with the sales register. Okay, sales register less credit note is nothing but the GSTR one. So you map it with that 23,100. There's no credit note. So if you just get back here 23,100. If you make it columnar, you will get the taxable value also. Always map it with the registers, because that is where your accounting happens. Do not just blindly trust that everything is going to reflect here, because even the slightest error will go and throw the entry somewhere else. Now the last place where you should focus is on the exception reports. So in exception reports, you have something called voucher accepted as is, where the voucher has accepted with original value. In these cases, wherever there have been rate differences and you have just accepted the transaction. I'll give you an example. So I will just edit this particular transaction and I will manually change the rate. Okay. We know that it is 275 rupees. I will manually change it to 450 rupees. Okay. And I'll leave this at 275 itself. And I will come and fall here under errors. Now what I'm going to do, I am lazy. So I will select all and I'll say all J, accept as is. Okay. Now it has accepted, will come and fall here and all of that. This error will be shown here in the exception reports. Voucher accepted as is. Now it is clearly showing it's a wrong error. If you just remove this accept as is and go and check, it will again show an uncertain transaction which you can correct. This place is normally what we ignore. And normally all these errors we see when we get notice or something like that, thing. And this is the second category wherein the GST number is wrong. So you can tell your, tell the accountant, or, can tell your client if you're working as an auditor, and tell your client, you please check these transactions. So these are the places you're supposed to check before you are filing your return, which we normally do not do. All we do is, because this is what is appearing directly in front of our eyes, we check these. I'm sure we do this. But these places also give you a lot of information on any kind of error that has been made. So, make sure next time you check into these transactions. Now, in a lot of purchase entries, what happens is there are a lot of point differences. So you can have a cutoff. You can say, I want to ignore. Yeah. you can say allow tax difference up to 1 rupee, greater or lesser, something like that. You can do it here under basis of values. I'm sorry, under basis of values, you can say I want to ignore all tax differences up to 1 rupee, or I want to ignore up to 50 paise or 2 rupees. Generally, we do not go beyond 1 rupee. So that you can make sure. Include vouchers having where the voucher numbers exceed the 16 characters. If you say no, all those vouchers which have more than 16 characters will come and throw under error category. So if you can have your customization, there are a lot of features which are there which you need to utilize. If you say yes, then all voucher numbers, even if they are 20 digits, will all be accepted. The next is change view. This particular view is the return view. Okay, this is the return view. You have other views in this thing, which is another one is nature wise. So now what is the benefit of this? So if you have multiple rates in a single entry, this particular view will split up those entries, and if you just get inside, you'll get rate wise, rate wise, invoice wise details if you want that, or if you want party wise, you can get that also. Okay, since we do not have so many entries, you're not able to clearly see them. Otherwise, you'll be able to even see it at stock item wise. Okay, you have multiple scenarios based on your need. You can see them and check them as well. So if you have a register wherein this much is your stock, you can just check your purchase sales based on item wise, and you can verify them. So these are the views in nature wise. Now there's one more called status reconciliation. Okay, so whether it was uploaded, to be uploaded, and all of this this particular reconciled and not reconciled. So you can just get status. So you can say whether it's accepted or not reconciled. You can do that on monthly basis, and then the end of the year you can check errors here. This is one more view, and you can use this particular tally itself to make your status corrections. For your to be reconciliation, you can do so. Same thing for GSTR2. Okay, same thing, not relevant for this return, invoice with mismatch. Now, okay, again the GST numbers in the dummy one, it will keep coming. So here, if you just see, these are the transactions which are there. Here also you have the same views. Okay, you have status wise. Yeah. So you need not have as a view here. Here you have it like this. You want to set status, you can set accepted, rejected, or whatever. You can, you can have voucher wise, and you want to just hide this voucher. So if you have already given a status and you want to just clear it, you can clear the status also. So you can give a status like it's accepted, it's rejected, and whatever status which you have it. If you have modification, then you can select accordingly. Okay, so you can have if it's pending, you can say pending. If it's rejected, you can do your reconciliation from Tally itself. You need not have another this thing. Only issue is that you will have to do it manually one-on-one. That is the only issue here. But if you have lesser number of transactions, you need not go to any other software. You can do it right here. So this is about the error correction. The last place where you have to actually see while you're filing return is the group summary. So if you have multiple ledgers, then you go into group summary. Otherwise, you can directly go into the ledger itself. So GST accounts is my place where all my ledgers are. You say opening balance, transaction, and closing. So your opening and closing are not relevant. Only your transactions are relevant. You can map this transaction with your GSTR 1 or 2P. So now if you see, it is 275, 275 April to June. I will just make it April to September. So now it is 550, 275 and 275. So I'll just go back, and if you just see, this is 275 output, and 275. This is also one way of checking whether you have passed it under the correct ledgers. So generally what happens, they all seem similar. So output ledgers get chosen instead of input and vice versa. That kind of errors also will be reflected when you check that. So whenever you're filing a return, there are 3 places where you need to do the checking. While the first checking though obviously happens at the entry level itself. Before you save the entry, please make sure that all your entries, all your points wherein the GST calculation happens, all those zones you have already checked. If that has happened, then these checking will become easier. But while before you file your return, you need to make sure that you're checking into the unexplored places. Even if you're not able to do it on monthly basis, at least do it on quarterly. If not quarterly, at least half yearly. I would not suggest you go beyond that limit, because the number of entries might become larger in count, and then the quantity will overwhelm you. So it's better you do it on regular basis, and you check these places which are generally not checked, and these are the places where errors are stuck. With this, ma'am, I have come to the end of my session. Do you have
I think we can give a couple of questions. So if you could see in a Q&A.
Okay. Can you read it out for me?
Yes. In the Q&A, I think one by Mr. Tarun Gupta, that can you tell how can we make a single voucher entry for a different GST rates? I think we did cover that, right?
Okay. No, I did cover that. I will again show it once more. The key lies in, I'll just edit an entry which is already passed, because if I'm going to do a fresh one, it's going to take a lot of time. Okay, this is the entry already passed. So actually, yeah. So now the key lies in your details which you enter. So if I just create some additional charges. Okay, if you choose your rates correctly at the creation, master creation level, then you need not worry about the rate getting, corrected automatically. So now additional charges, I'm putting like 5,000 maybe. Okay. So here there are 2 things which you have to keep in mind if you're doing multiple rate entries. The first thing you have to keep in mind is the relevant ledgers and items should have their correct rates. The second thing is you have to decide whether you want multiple rates in the GST ledgers or you want a single ledger for all rates. If you have multiple rate ledgers, like in this case, excuse me, then you need to make sure that you select the rate inside. If you do not select, then it's a generalized ledger and all the rates will come in the same ledger, which is this one. Okay. If you calculate and see, it will come correctly 550, 5,000 into 18%. 900 plus 550 was 1450. Okay. So these things you have to keep in mind. Passing single rate entry or multiple rate entry is a matter of choice. There's a lot of litigation around it as well. But having said that, if you want to do multiple rates, you have to only keep 2 things in mind: the ledger or the item wherein you're using for your entry, and the rate ledgers. Your statutory ledger should correlate with one another. If that is happening, then your entry will be, it will come flawlessly. Do we have the next question?
Yeah, the setting of input service distributor register in Tally Ledger and the report in GSTR1, how can we show it?
Okay. Input service distributor, while you're this particular category, again, it will take a lot of time. Can we go to the next question? Do we have time, ma'am?
Ma'am, not much. When you so what we could do all other questions and then we can see how much
Okay,
time we
done.
have.
Because
Yeah.
it'll take some time to show that, because you don't have a particular input service distributor setting as such, but you can work around it and you can get it.
Okay.
You just have to.
Next question, I think we can take from the chat. That is, how to register extract with item name and quantity.
I'm sorry, how?
How I think there's some. It's not a complete sentence. That is, how to purchase register extract with item name and quantity.
Okay. How to get purchase register extract with item name and quantity. Okay, there are two ways to do that. One is the general report which you are getting, the purchase register, wherein you just say I want stock details also. Okay, so when you are exporting this, okay, I am just going to say current, I'm going to export. There are two ways to do it. You say, I'll say just show more. Yeah. So you want the format to be detailed, whether you want inventory detail, you say yes. And you want description also, I'll say no. And I'm just gonna, or just let me just show it here itself. Okay. So when you configure, you will have to select whether you want inventory details also. Then you will get the item name. I'll just export it like this. So okay, this is the purchase register. Okay, this was exported on top of another register. Okay, let me just delete this sheet. I'm going to re-export. Okay, whether you want detail, whether you want inventory information, I'm going to say yes and export it. This is your general voucher type export. Okay, the second export is columnar. I'm sure all of us know this. So over here, while you're choosing your columns, choose all relevant columns. In that, you have something called quantity details. You say yes. Whether you want rate also, you can choose that. Okay, if you want rate details, say yes to that also and accept it. Now, when you're exporting, okay, now when you're going to export this, you're going to get the quantity details in the next line. The only drawback here is you'll have to manually filter and then, note the previous thing. You need a little bit of formulas, wherein you will be able to get the accounting information in stock item level. So when you have multiple, maybe you have another shoe entry, then it'll show like this. Okay. So what will happen is you will not be able to filter and do. If you're just going to view it like this, this is the report. Now the third way of getting the report is, again, the same place, everything is the same. There is an option called export for pivot. You just say yes to that. Okay. Once you say yes to that, I'm sorry, I'll have to change the name. I'll just change the name of the file. Okay. So once you say yes to that, it'll come like something like this. Now, this particular detail, if you have multiple stock items, the invoice number will keep repeating itself. And you'll get all the details. You can just hide what you don't need. And you can actually also choose what you need and what you don't need. Okay, you need not have so many items. When you choose for pivot, I'll just show you again. Okay, you go to the export option only. You say show more. Okay, and you select pivot to be yes. Once you select pivot to be yes, Okay, it will show you whether you want item properties. You say no, yes, according to your requirement. You want GST details, you want statutory details, probably if you want order details, if you want company name, and all everything, whatever you want to say yes to, you say yes to it. And you'll get a report like this. So after you get a report like this, if you just see right now, I have given lesser details. Let me just do a thing. I will just delete this sheet and I will give again. Now I have chosen what and all I need. Okay. Now let me just export this. Yeah. So now if you see, you'll get all your details. But having said that, this also has its own limitation. It will not give you the accounting aspects of the entry. So wherein that this particular report which I showed you earlier, the columnar report, will have the accounting information, but it will not give you the level wise, the accounting information in your stock item level. And this pivot will not give you accounting information, but it will give you all stock item information in each of the ledgers.
Monica ji, is this very complete or you want to add some to it? So because we are running short of time, I think there are 2 raised hands in the audience. We could address that first.
Yeah. I am done with this. That's what I wanted to show. There are 3 ways of exporting, but everything has its own small limitation. Right. So you can choose the best option according to your need.
Yeah. So Huma Khan, I think you've raised a hand. I have given you permission to talk. You can ask your question directly. And Anil Kumarji, I think even you, I think your question is related to ISD. So
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
मैम मैं जस्ट ये एक चीज जानना चाह रहा था, ये आईएसडी की जो हम सेटिंग करते हैं उसके बारे में मुझे जानना था। एक दो हमारे क्लाइंट्स हैं जो आईएसडी है, जैसे पैनासोनिक है, तो उनकी एंट्रीज हम किस तरीके से GSTR1 में शो कर सकते हैं?
ISD entry, you will have to show, the GST setting is all the same. But when you come into transaction,
yes,
you will have to, save that person as an input service distributor or other company. You will have to choose their, you have to also choose your registration as an input service distributor.
No,
you
no,
might have
our
to have
is
2 registrations.
regular.
No. One second. Yeah, here is, here you will not make much changes, but there was one place. One second, just hold on. Can we take this offline? Can we? I mean, I will definitely show you. It is there in the stat adjustment only.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, but see, in your company settings, you will not have much changes to do. I mean, there is no change to do. But in your transaction, when you're doing that, you will have to do it in the stat adjustment. The recording of transaction and the stat adjustment, because this is only a transfer entry which you're going to do.
Okay.
You're going to book the accounts and you're going to transfer one amount, right? You're going to raise one invoice based on the entries you have received.
Yes.
So that particular transfer is how you're going to do as a stat adjustment entry. The accounting of invoices and all of that remains almost the same. It is exactly the same.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Only the end, like wherein you're just transferring these entries, that is where you will mention it as input service distributor. Generally, you have it under this category. One second. Just hold on. that the thing is, right now I'll not be able to just take it off. We will take this offline, definitely.
Okay.
So Anilji, if you could drop your contact number or email, so I think that way Monica ma'am can help you out.
Sure.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one last question for the day, we can take it as what should be done if GST becomes applicable after some time of the start of business, which was not applicable initially.
Sorry, can you repeat the
So
question?
it basically says that if during the business beginning, if the GST was not applicable then, but later on becomes applicable,
Okay.
so what can be
This
done?
is,
So
yeah,
will be-
yeah. This I mentioned the first step itself. That's the reason I was very, slow, and I went right from the basics. The reason of going right from the basics was because we might be aware, but we might not be aware why it is done. So this is where that is the, this is the place where you do that. Yeah. So when you say no GST applicable from, if I mention this date to be 1st of September 21, okay, I'm mentioning this date. Similarly, here also I will say 1st of April 22, okay. Now, you try passing any invoice on 1st April 21. I'm going to change the period. You can change the period right in the entry also. So I'm going to change the period and I'm going to pass a GST entry. Supposed to be sales. Okay, let me pass a sales entry. Okay. Oh, sorry, I did not even change the date. Okay. No matter what you do, you will not be able to pass until you forcefully pass it. Okay. Because we have defined that the date of our transactions will only start from 1st September at here itself. Okay. Here itself, we have defined that it is going to start from, 1st September only. If I say 1st April 21, now you try passing the entry on 1st April 21, you'll be able to pass. The same sales entry, the same date, everything is same. Okay. I'll quickly just the same sales entry, same item, everything I'm doing the same. Okay. I'm doing 10 pairs only. Rate is also 1000. Okay. Now I'm going to choose CGST. Okay. Now you're getting the value. Again, I will change the date here. Okay. Just see real time. Again, the value has gone. If you go and see, check the shoe account, because this is where we have done the classification details. I'll just get into the history. Okay. I'm getting into GST history. And if you see, the date over here still shows 1st April only. But we have changed the date and at the company level. So immediately this calculation stops. If I just change this day to 2nd May, you'll see that the calculation comes back. That means GST is able to recognize. Now, if you forcefully put an entry, it will definitely take it, but it will all throw under error. Yes, ma'am. We're done with the question.
Yeah, ma'am. So we are done with the questions. Currently, I think we've shared your email with Mr. Anilji. So that is one query we could sort out offline.
Yes, I will do that.
Yes. So thank you, ma'am, for being so patient and answering all the queries and for the wonderful presentation. Thank you to the audience for being such a patient and staying with us even now. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I'm sure many of the registrants will benefit from this, from the video that we will upload in community.tallysolutions.com and also on our YouTube channel under Tally CA Connect. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us today. I'll just end the webinar.
Thank you.